In Washington, D.C., there is a movement to add an amendment to the Constitution guaranteeing rights for victims of violent crimes. And Oklahoma is playing a key role in making that happen. 2 News anchor Russ McCaskey sits down with Brooks Douglas, whose family was victimized in one of Oklahoma's most notorious cases.
Brooks Douglas joins us. Thanks for being with us today.
Thanks, Russ. Glad to be here.
You know, years ago when you were in the state Senate, you helped form the Oklahoma's Victims' Rights Act, and it's done wonderful things for victims of violent crime, which, of course, you are yourself. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a moment. But now they're looking at doing it nationwide, and you're actually going to go testify before Congress. Let's talk a little bit about that. How important is that?
It's critical. You know, right now there are 23 provisions in the U.S. Constitution for the accused, all of which I'm for. If I'm accused of a crime, I want to make sure those are there for me. But there are zero rights for victims. And you know, the victim is really at the basis of the whole criminal justice system. And that's why we have a criminal justice system. And what's happened is through the years, by working hard to protect the rights of the accused, we've essentially forgotten about the victims of the crime. So now, as I said when I was in the Senate, and you've heard me say it before, our system literally steps over the body of the victim to read the criminal as rights. And so we need to make it, and we've gone a long ways in Oklahoma towards having victims' rights, the protections there for us.
Right.
But it's very easy for a judge or someone to just ignore them, and there's no consequences for that. There's no standing for the victims, and so frequently they're just denied the right, and nothing they can do about it.
And you said, you know, having gone through that as a victim of violent crime, and not being able to give a victim's impact statement and some of those kinds of things, that's just critical. And not only does it help the victim, but it also lets the judge and jury know, you know, what you have been through and so forth, and other victims. And so I guess, will that be part of this national?
Sure. What it does is it's like other constitutional amendments. It says that the victim has the right to be heard. They have the right to be present during proceedings. And right now that's a problem where the defense counsel will a lot of times subpoena the family members of the victim, even though they don't plan on calling them as witnesses. They'll subpoena them so that they can keep them out of the courtroom throughout the proceedings. So they don't hear what's happening. They don't know what's going on with the case, and so there are just things like that that sort of undergird or support the rights, the statutory rights that we have in Oklahoma, and even on the federal system. But you need to have you got to have the same footing as the rights of the accused, or else there's no balance. They're struck down or they're ignored. And
you know, we've talked about, you know, your story. For those people who don't know, in 1979, your family was basically attacked by a couple guys as you were getting ready to sit down and eat dinner. Your sister was sexually assaulted, and your whole family was shot and left for dead. Your mother and father died. That eventually led you to go in the Senate and pass some of this victims' rights stuff. But then now recently you have made a movie about it. And tell me a little bit about just what that was like, to being able to tell your story and put it on film for other people to see.
Well, it was something I never thought would happen, but it, you know, and I saw it as a tribute to my parents and because of the kind of people they were and things like that. But it really has been eye-opening for me to watch as people learn about the criminal justice system just from watching us live through it in the movie. And so it's been something that's encouraged people. It's been really good. I mean, even in prisons they've been playing it amazingly, and it really speaks to a lot of them as well.
Yeah. How hard was it for you to kind of relive that on film? You played the role of your father.
Right. Yeah, most of it was fun, and I thought it was going to be fun because when I think about my dad, I don't think about him dying on the living room floor next to me. I think of him throwing a football or up preaching, which he did, or riding in the car, things like that. And so those scenes, I thought, man, this is great. It wasn't until we got to the crime scene that you know, it really hit me. It was absolutely one of the hardest things I've ever done.
No doubt about it. Well, you know, it's been out in theaters, and now people can get a copy of it, correct? And they do that through Heaven. And the movie's called Heaven's Rain.
Right.
And is it heavensrain.com? Is that still the best way to get it?
Heavensrainmovie.com is where they can go to buy the movie and get information about it. It's been airing. It airs occasionally on GMC Network, so did last night. So it's out there, and people can find it.
All right, and good luck with the National Victims' Bill of Rights.
Great. Thanks, Russ.
Thanks, Brooks.